Let me find out. Let me find out. Y'all acting a fool like that at a funeral in the capacity that they showed on this movie. Let me find out. That's all I got to say. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I am your girl, Molinda Jae. Yes, long time no see, but we here. And I'm here to do a review of the Divorce in Black film by Tyler Perry. The controversial cinema in the black sector as of right now. From what reports has been saying that it has been rated 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and there has been several comments and opinions and feedback that the fans, peers, everyone has been providing for Tyler Perry to basically hire, even though you pay, or it's been said that you pay your actors, your actresses, um, your staff a good amount of money, as they should. Is the people are asking to bring upon other black creators, black writers to the table. Since you created your table, could you add a little bit more people to the table to help you write these to write these things? Now, when I watch a clip from Comedy Hype regarding to Corey Hardrick's opinion or feedback, opinions of the feedback that Tyler Perry has been getting regarding to the film, he was stating to say, well, Tyler Perry has paid me good in the amount of time that we filmed the movie, which was in 3 weeks compared to 5 months, and he's getting, Trump change from it. So I mean, honestly, would you rather get your money's worth and y'all have a short time of filming and you're able to produce it, direct it, write it, and have it out within a couple of weeks, or better yet, a month? Or would you rather work on a project for 5 months and possibly get stuck there in contract to not work with anybody else because you have to be on set for 5 months and you getting paid chump change? That's just a question to throw out there. I'm just saying, okay? But 3 weeks, 3 weeks to film that movie and it being out, is that got to be a world record, okay? Um, Other than that, key points. Now, first things first, I want to start with a title first: Divorce in Black. So I'm like, my theory, my gears are clicking. Okay, and I'm like, what made him choose that title? Divorce in Black. Well, when you go, in my eyes, in my perspective, if I'm thinking this, how I'm deciphering the title, well, when you're getting a divorce, you're going through the stages of grief, okay, in the process of that matter. So, because you got to look at the color therapy of it all. Black, the color black, is meaning, but black, it represents classic, it represents conventional, it represents formal, it represents dramatic, it represents sophistication and security. To go back to the title, Divorce in Black, as you're going through a divorce, you're going through the stages of grief, and that you're mourning. It's a mourning because you're being released from a relationship, or you're being you're being released from a relationship that is no longer serving you or the other person, or both on one accord, depending on how it's been dissolved, right? um and then with it being in black, well, typically whenever we go to funerals, uh, the the people are dressed in black because they're mourning a loss of a person. They're mourning a loss of something. Now nowadays, the color scheme of the funerals, um, it varies. You know, you have nowadays people are expanding their horizons when it comes to funerals, of dressing the color that their loved ones love to, raise the vibration up a little bit. Okay. So now that we got the topic deciphered and my point of view, let me know down in the comments section below if you're catching my drift on this. All right. But the key points that, even though before we move into how I dissected the movie, even though everybody has it out for Tyler Perry when it comes to his production and movies and stuff like that. The way I deciphered this movie, I hope it's how they decipher how the thought process was when writing and producing and directed this movie. Because again, we can throw all the tomatoes we want at Tyler Perry, but at the end of the day, a lot of these stuff that is being represented in these movies is playing out in real life, and is almost like a mirror to our faces, like, hey, when is this going to stop? Okay, when are we going to hold ourselves accountable and do what is right for not only ourselves but also for our family and the community? So yes, we can throw all the rotten tomatoes, the tomatoes of the production, the tomato of the 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 we can throw the tomatoes on everything, okay? And his antics on he how he um produces stuff that's in correlation to abuse and black women and black families and stuff like that. But again, we're gonna have to look ourselves in the mirror and address these problems accordingly, because every time a news break about a situation like this, it's always how we're going to break the cycle, how are we going to go about um now what are we going to do as a community? The black community is going away, and there's no sense of community. All the toxicity of it all. Where is the positivity in this matter? Well, in this case, life imitates art and art imitates life. So, and without further ado, I hope these points that I bring across to you all as a collective will start some conversations and really dive deep into the root of the issues, the root of the causes that be happening behind closed doors within our own family unit, so we can go ahead and get to a sense of community and start rebuilding the foundation and move it on up. All right. Now, key points I want to address that came into mind as I was watching the movie. First things first, the stages of grief, for one thing. Because again, as you're going through divorce, you're going through the stages of grief. The primary 5 stages of grief, meaning denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. There are certain scenes in this movie that plays a factor to all these stages of grief in this movie, and I'm gonna tell you why in just a minute. Again, we're going to be addressing the church, okay? The good, the bad, and the ugly of the church. We're going to be addressing the foolishness that happens before, during, and after funerals. Because let's be real, a lot of stuff be happening at funerals before, during, and after, or when a loved one passes away, or when a dismantling of a relationship happens. We're going to keep it a buck over here. All right. We're going to be addressing PTSD, because there were a couple of things in this movie that can play a factor into a human psyche to where it leads them to insanity because they're not able to get the proper tools and resources to be able to decipher what's going on in their mind, and how can we try to eliminate the the steps. Well, how can we try to eliminate the person from going off the cliff? Okay, and then we're going to be addressing generational curses in this matter, how things that play subconsciously and consciously um, within our upbringing, and then it flows into our flow pattern in some way, shape, or form. It may not happen with you, but it may skip over and go to someone else. And then also boundaries. Boundaries within the relationship, between couple, between family members, and all that. We're going to be discussing relationship dynamics. And within this film, we're going to be discussing support system as well. And that's about it that I have written down so far. So um, sit back, relax, and let's go ahead and explicate this movie, as as my teacher would say. Well, we used to explicate poems, but we're gonna explicate this movie. We're going to break it on down over here. Now, the first thing that I want to address in this movie is the church, okay? Because the scene does start out with um the funeral happening at the church. The Bertrands are in the process of burying the eldest son that had got off by um, an elder in the church, because he was in the process of robbing her, and she click clack pop pop him in the meantime out of self defense. And the pastor is relaying a message to the collective. He's giving his eulogy to the collective, and it was all good until Mother Bertrand, Linda Bertrand, began to pay attention and read between the lines in his message a little bit, almost like being passive aggressive. So when Linda Bertrand clocks the T on the pastor, regarding to him talking about her parenting tactics and taking accountability for what has happened to her son thus far, and seeing if they have learned their lesson thus far, she calls out the pastor. She calls out the hypocrisy in the pastor, like, how are you gonna do this at my son's funeral? And we are in mourning here. And and the pastor is which is basically the father-in-law of the Bertrands, and he's just stating the obvious. And if a hit dog hollers, then make it holler for $1. So that's when Linda was like, well, we don't need this crap. Honestly, we don't need you. We don't need your help. We don't need y'all to do anything. I'm going to take my clothes off, and the clothes that y'all have given me, because I'm not finna be a pity party for you all. And that leads to basically a talking point on how how the congregants would turn their backs on the church, because church is a place of refuge. It's a place of seeking guidance and finding community within church. And with churches nowadays, you'll get a good handful of churches that will actually live up to those expectations, or will do as thy will, as they supposed to be when they when they are a church organization. Church should be about community. Church should be about guidance. It should be about seeking refuge when you have nowhere to turn. And for churches nowadays are are being dismantled because of the pastor is living in the flesh, and which he is human. Okay, he's human first for the most part, but again, you also have to practice what you preach, because that's what the purpose of the initiation ceremony is for. um as you begin to be a pastor and uphold those pastoral duties and whatnot, um and also calling out the hypocrisy. um yes, the messages can hit hard sometimes, but yo, it's like practice what you preach. Stop being hypocritical. Stop looking down on the less fortunate, because the less fortunate is coming for you for to seek guidance and resolution. And if you're not providing that for them, then what's the purpose of them attending your church when you're not providing the basic needs that they need from you as a church? Okay, and that's probably why these churches are dismantling is in warp speed this year, because the purpose is not being fulfilled at the church, and there's false prophecies, false prophets that are at these churches, and they're not doing as thy will according to the purpose of the church. Okay, and then that will lead to the foolishness, the next pointer of foolishness happening at funerals. Well, before a funeral, there's already a state of shock, because people, depending on how a person passes away, it's like what it'll lead to a certain shock, and people are trying to figure out what and put two to two on what happened to that person and why they're not here in the physical realm. But it has went to the extent with this movie of Linda Bertrand, the mother, is like, we we're good. We're just going to take him and we're going to bury him how he should be, which is on the Bertrand land. I'm thinking they're going to go ahead and take the casket. I'm pretty sure everybody was like, okay, they about to take the casket and go. No, she instructed the rest of her boys to take the body out of the casket so they can bury him on the land. And my thought process on that is, y'all better not do that at anybody's funeral. I better not catch no news story breaking about somebody being so unsensitive, not only to the congregation that is attending your son's funeral, but also to your sons as well, because you causing trauma on them, lady. Okay. Honestly, I better not see no news report breaking news about somebody instructing another person to take the body out of the casket for them to bury it however they want to. Cause it's almost like, why you here? Why you here, sis? Okay. You seen it coming to some degree. But let me find out. Y'all acting a fool like that at a funeral in the capacity that they showed on this movie. Let me find out. That's all I got to say. That was completely over the top, but I would not be surprised that somebody would do that. And I pray to God nobody does that in real life. But you'll be amazed how foolish people can get at a funeral. Believe me, I have attended enough funerals before, during, and after on how the foolishness that people would do during the time of bereavement, which leads to secrets, unraveling, family breakdowns, And all the chaos unfolds in the midst of that. Um, which leads to the third point of the PTSD element with by having the rest of the sons getting the body out of the casket. You've already set the tone. You've already put the nail in the coffin, literally, on the psyche of the rest of your boys on that matter. Yet alone Dallas. Which brings me to my next point of the PTSD topic is that on their when Ava and Dallas got home, Dallas had told her that his mother had him to off his dad. And I'm thinking, well, is it because they have land? Because land is valuable. It's a valuable asset. It's enough to put anybody in the ground, honestly. And further on down in the movie, the reason why he off his dad is because the dad was abusive to the mom. So that leads to the next pointer I want to address with with this movie is the generational curses that come into play that either continues or they get broken, as it's happened with following the abuse between Mama Bertrand and her husband, which causes the youngest son, I'm assuming Dallas is the youngest son, just how rambunctious he is, to off him out of defense for his mother, which that's already put into his psyche on how he deciphers love, because that's what he'd been seeing during his upbringing, which will trickle down to him and Ava in their marriage, because he has been doing the same thing to her, but thankfully they don't have any kids, so it's easy for them to settle the divorce because there's no kids, no living being kids. Of course there's money and assets, but for the most part there's no kids in between the two of them. Also the fact that it was doomed the marriage was doomed from the start, because we seen video clips of the mother coming up to Ava at the altar and slapping the bouquet out of her hand, saying, "You are not worth my son." Okay. And then also being taught Ava Megan Good's character, even though she is a pastor's daughter, um, the generational curse on her end that, well, not even on her end, but it's being taught within the Black community from generations to generation, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, is being taught to stay by your man through richer for poor, for sickness and health, but in this case not for abuse, because she had told her mom, y'all told me to stand by your man, but not in that capacity, Miss Ava. You don't stay with somebody that is hurting you in all ways, shapes, or form, mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally. That's not how that rolls. Which leads to the next pointer of the stages of grief and divorce, and how it played out in this movie, starting with denial. With denial, and when you're going through the stages of grief and divorce, according to Google, there is no order on how a person process their emotions during this time, but denial is one of the stages, and denial is defined as a defense mechanism that helps people protect themselves from shock. So when Dallas told Ava that he wanted a divorce at the dinner table when they was eating with Jimmy, with the friends Jimmy and Rona, of course, Ava was in a state of shock to a certain degree. Like, wow, you want a divorce after all this time? Okay. But in the flip side, when Dallas was shocked as well, and he showed a sense of denial because he was shocked that she actually went through the process of signing the papers, because he thought she was not going to sign those papers. He thought she was going to do her same old usual thing and fall right back into his arms and resume operations. That was not the case, which leads to the anger stage. Anger is defined as a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. Ava, having enough of him taunting Rona, the folks at the bank, her mom at the grocery store, her daddy, as well as you can say Benji too. Okay, Ava, she had enough, and that's what have her calling him up, getting into his head, and to lure him to her house and stuff like that. And also feeling frustrated that and annoyed that she even tolerate all the stuff that had transpired in their marriage. Okay. Also, the anger aspect when it comes to Dallas's family stirring the pot, keep feeding Dallas's mind on how not only Ava was not good enough for Dallas, but also the fact that she keeps cheating on him with Benji, which she didn't do that until after the divorce papers were signed. And also Dallas screaming out black women ain't ish at the dinner table. If black women ain't ish, then that means you're talking about your mom too, cause she black, bruh. Okay, what sense does that make? If you, yeah, you're pretty much saying that you ain't ish because you came from a black woman. So make that make sense, Dallas. Okay. Um, and then also another anger aspect that came from this movie was Dallas, of course, Dallas taunting the first lady at the supermarket, manhandling her, um, and all his outbursts at the bank, sitting um, outside the friend's house when the divorce party was happening, because he thought he was gonna get in and make things right, or make her get in and make her fall in line, as well as him going over to the friend's house again while her and Ava and Benji and Rona and Jimmy was there, using his friend um as a portal to still be in the space when he should not be there. I mean, of course, he can still be friends with Jimmy, but of course, Jimmy's wife, Rona, she makes sure that he set some boundaries with him, which that will be further on down the line that I talk about, as well as anything else in this matter when it comes to, oh, the pastor being mad at Dallas, putting his hands on his woman as well as his daughter, and then which leads to bargaining coming to play. Bargaining is defined as some people may find this stage to be the hardest. So when, as I'm looking at your stage of bargaining within this movie, you see Dallas eating at the table, um at the house that at the marital house that they once had, but Ava still lives there, eating cereal, telling Ava that we got some things to work out and we got some making up to do, still trying to get her fall in line again. And this was after she signed the papers. So there was a little bargaining there that he was trying to do, along with some manipulation. But Ava, she was not having it in that manner. Once before, I believe Ava was um she was falling, Ava, she was falling back into that denial when her good friend Rona served her them papers, um, of a list of everything that she wrote down about what Dallas did to Ava. But again, she went back to like, okay, all right, I see where we got there, which leads to depression. The depression stage is being defined as someone, some people may find this stage to be the hardest. Well, in my eyes, I don't think Dallas went into a depression. It was more like defeat. Whenever the papers were signed and he was um, sitting outside the his friend's house when the party was happening, the divorce party was happening, and that was the only sense of depression on Dallas's end and his own point of view. But with Ava, you, you know, she cried about it after she read out what Ava had wrote down for her, and because um of her still being in denial. All right. Um and also Ava was still in shock with her getting the divorce. Divorce is hard, and of course you could tell she was going to ride it out to the end, but I'm glad he was the one that initiated and not she did. Even though she should have did that a long time ago, like in the beginning of the film, but oh, the film played how it wanted to play. And then that leads to acceptance as the last stage, but one of the stages of grief, and that is being defined as part of the process of learning to live with the loss. So, on Ava's end, Ava is being able to breathe after um, seeking out refuge at her parents' house. Okay, for one thing, that was a one form of acceptance because she was able to clear her mind in the country, as well as having some reinforcement, some support system, which that'll be further down as a topic as well. And then after often Dallas, that was another form of acceptance because even though he's no longer here, um, she doesn't have to deal with him and his antics anymore. Um, of course, the mom still wanted to be about it and continue on with the feud with her, but she really laid it on the line to Miss Bertrand, like, it's done. Well, she didn't say I'm sorry for your loss, but she was like, it's done. And if you want to try it again, we can go another round. And one of the eldest brothers, the second eldest brother, he was able to tell them like, hey, just leave her alone, back away. We just gonna have to count our losses. Now that leads to the boundary spectrum of in this movie where families are not staying in their place. And we know this plays day in, day out in our daily lives when we are in relationships with people, especially when they do not serve us. In this capacity, the Bertrands did not stay in their place because they were so bent of, oh, Ava is not good enough for you. And of course there's that toxicity, that mother toxicity, of codependency and um uh I guess you can say Dallas being well, that even though Dallas was the father figure, I mean not the father figure, the youngest out of the boys, it seems like Dallas, she treated Dallas as her pride and joy. Um, of course, she had equal amounts of pride and joy with all her boys, but Dallas, um, she definitely had a sense of pride and joy with him, and it's probably due to him often his dad, so she can be free from her bondage. Okay, but um, yeah, Mom Duke, she should have stayed in her place. because misery does love company, and you do got to eliminate that as much as possible. Ava's parents was interfering, specifically the dad, Pastor Daddy, when it came to pushing Ava on Benji uh, when the divorce process was happening. Of course, yes, we all love Benji. He loved Benji because he's a good man, Savannah. But Benji, I'm glad Benji character acknowledges the boundaries of a relationship. When it came to Ava going through her divorce, he told her plain as day, like, look, I know you're going through a divorce. I know you are a little tipsy off this whiskey that you're drinking, but I'm not going all the way with you until that thing is finalized. And she respected that. And also the fact that even though the dad wanted Ava to be with Benji so bad, I like the fact that First Lady was like, well, it was not my idea. Of course, and she gave off the impression like, of course, I like Benji too, but women do not move fast like y'all men when it comes to moving on to another relationship. We don't move um majority of the women, and it and is probably a mixture, but historically back then women would take a longer time moving on to a relationship because they are trying to find themselves again because of losing themselves to a certain degree in a relationship. So I'm glad First Lady brought up a significant point in this movie regarding to divorce, is that it is important to heal the heart and self first before you move forward. Because if you don't, all that what was happening in the previous relationship that you did not close the chapter to is going to flow right into the next relationship, and the next person is going to catch all the heat in the next relationship because you did not close that chapter in the previous relationship. And that's why in today's day and age in social media realm, as much as people want to be together, be loved, be deserving of love, and all in aspects, and enjoy all the aspects in a relationship, it is important for you, for your own sanity and the next person's own sanity and the person before you, is to close the chapter completely, sign, seal, and deliver. Especially when it's a marriage going into divorce, is to complete the steps, okay, to heal your heart, heal yourself, take some time and rediscover yourself before you move on to another relationship, because it will benefit, because you'll have a sense of self in the next relationship, and you won't have to worry about um you won't have to worry about losing yourself in the next relationship, because you know what you want, and you know what you don't want. Okay, so I'm glad First Lady brought that point up, because that's another form of boundaries that definitely needs to be established before, during, after a relationship, before, during, after a divorce. And also, when it comes to the boundaries, like, I really wish Ava had found another house after the divorce, especially since even though she changed the locks, he's still nonchalant and will break a window to get in like he did at first, or find a way like he did at first. I really wish she had found another home. I don't care if the parents had bought the house. I would have been like, okay, mom and dad, let's put them house back on the market. Um, and we're going to find another place so I can have a fresh start in that manner. Which leads to the relationship dynamics of this, that I caught on with this film. As I stated before, losing self in the union. Um, Ava had lost herself within this marriage, and I'm glad her father and her mother had an honest conversation, that brings about that support system, um, hand in hand, on showing her how she was then. To Ava's defense, yeah, you're not the same person as you was back then, because everybody evolves in their own pace. But there are some elements in your past life, or back in the past, that allowed you to be the person that you are today. And what he kept expressing her to her is that, you see that finish line, you was you was able to get to that finish line, even though you had a little mishap, you was still able and ready and competitive enough to get to the finish line. And that's what I want you to do. You see how you were before, and you see how you were now. That's not the girl that I see now. I see someone that is not happy. And I'm glad that daddy was able to, um, you know. And also, it brings about the relationship dynamics, not only between her parents, individually, I mean, as a whole, but also individually, on how the dad, um, you know, was having a come to Jesus moment with her, and also the mom having a coming to Jesus moment with her as well, when she read over the papers of what Rona had, all the times that Dallas had did to Ava. And even she had questioned herself on her parenting and her motherhood and her guidance, because she was able to do that for everybody else, but she did not catch the signs within her own roof. So again, I'm glad Ava was like, "Mom, you did everything that you could, but those were my decisions." And sometimes you have to allow your kids to fall on their butts for a little bit, to hit rock bottom, so they can be able to come back to you, as their support system, and seek the guidance, the unconditional love, and the strength to press on and move forward out of the situation that they're in. Okay. And also the dynamics of the relationship when it comes to, it seems like Ava makes more than Dallas, based on the blueprints that Dallas had in his car when he was outside of Jimmy and them house. It looked like he was working in construction or architect firm, but due to the fact on how everything was presented to us, it seems like Ava has and makes more money, and she has abundant of resources more than Dallas does. So we're seeing how a woman who is well off, that is with a man who has issues, especially on the mental standpoint. And for in this case with Ava, it does not work well for her. I do have to say, the Mama Bertrand, she was right to a certain degree, that Ava was not good for him, and that is God's rejection for protection. That was a warning sign then. But Ava went on through it to prove to herself, and to prove to Mama Bertrand, and to prove to her parents that, despite of what all you say, I'm going to make to make this relationship work. And unfortunately, it backfired on her, but the signs were there. They were already there. Um, so it talk with the relationship dynamics in this movie, it's giving um a, a small perspective. I'll say one perspective on how a the dynamics of a relationship would be with a woman that is well off, is resourceful, and is making money, possibly more than him, to that will fuel a little jealousy within the man, because he feels like he's not adequate enough to be her life partner, but he'll throw it back at her and say, you're not ever good enough for me, when it's really the flip side. He's projecting what he's been told in his mind, and possibly from other people in the community as well. Also, another relationship dynamics is Ava's father having a conversation with her, regarding to the action of love and being loved. And he tells her day in, day out, you see how I treat your mother, that's how I treat you. That's how I expect a man to treat my daughter, not like how Dallas is. So if I feel like somebody is not for my daughter, I'm going to voice my opinion on that. But of course, you have to make that decision thus far on that. And lastly, when it comes to relationship dynamics, it definitely shows the codependency and the manipulation factor regarding to the marriage and going through the divorce. The codependency aspect of how he thinks she can, how he thought she was going to come back to him, or fall in line back to his tactics, and her trying to save this man, being captive, save a girl, with Dallas in that matter. And also the manipulation being bestowed on them as well, with him trying to play mind games with her, and she's playing it right back with him because she's not having it anymore. Which leads to my last topic, um um of the support system in this movie. What the support system does when you're going through a situation is, when this movie is dealing with a divorce. In everyday life, you need a support system regardless, because um, you can't do things alone. Sometimes you need other people to, uh, um, uh, as reinforcements to make sure you're on the right path. All right. So with the support system aspect in this movie, you have Rona being the friend that she is. Shouts out to Rona. Everybody needs to have a Rona in their life. The friend accountable for her actions, but also be there for her to know that she is there, and she will help her each and every way to get out of this situation. So shouts out to Rona's character on providing her that list of everything Dallas had did to her, to have it physically in pen and paper on what he did to her. Because yeah, Ava, she went into that denial mode of, yeah, I lived it, you ain't gotta tell me, I don't need no list to let me know what I've already went through. But sometimes you need it written down on paper, and to look at all the things that the person has did to you. Weigh out the pros, weigh out the cons. If the pros weigh out the cons, then there's room for growth. If the cons weigh out the pros, it's time to make some adjustments. And sometimes, in this case scenario, it is time to let go of the weight. All right. So, and also, Rona followed through with getting Ava to file a restraining order on Dallas. So as another form of protection for her, because if something was to happen to her, well, it's already been put in black and white, that she has a restraining order out on him. But it also raised the awareness of the purpose of the restraining order, and how the restraining order, yes, is there for pen and paper, but in the police department's eyes, they can only do so much. They would need tangible physical evidence, like a confession. And unfortunately, the person will have to get hurt, in order for them to step in and actually charge them. When honestly, there should be um, more, how should I say it? More stipulations, more, uh, more can I say laws, more orders, more mm, even more protection, more procedures. There we go. There should be more procedures added on into the process of a restraining order, because there has been plenty of cases in intimate partner violence as well as domestic violence that people would have restraining orders, and by the time the police acts on to investigate what has transpired between the two people in the party, it's too late. One of them or both of them are gone, or one of them or both of them are hurt. So I feel like um, this particular film has highlighted the restrictions that happens when people file restraining orders. The police can only do so much, and something else has to happen um, if there's no tangible evidence to follow up through in order to charge the person. So, which leads to her getting a confession out of him, recording the conversation on the phone, and also him slapping her a couple of times a little bit for physical evidence, and then for him to bring a pow pow to the scene as a tactic for intimidation. And she had reinforcement with all the weaponry and security that her dad given her. She was able to take him out first, because if she wasn't going to do it, he was going to do it for her. So um that's that's basically how the movie ended. She ended up taking him out, and she had gained the acceptance that everything happens for a reason, and she is with her new man Benji, and that's it. That concludes the that concludes the movie on that one. So I want to hear from you all. Sound off in the comment section below on what y'all think about this film. Do any of the pointers that I addressed with this movie, does it resonate? Do you follow me on what on what the information I presented to y'all regarding to this movie, and how it relates to the stages of grief, um and also other situations play a factor regarding to two people getting divorced. Yes, divorce gets ugly, but in the meantime, in the between time, it's important to find lean back on your support system, take all the necessary precautions, and also um hey, make it do what it do. Well, not even make it do what it do, but hopefully everybody is able to agree to disagree and have what get what they have and learn the lesson behind, and also close the chapter fully and completely. Now, if you have children, that's a different story, but at least between the mother and the father, the main two parties involved, the mother and father, the husband and wife, making sure everything is resolved and the chapter is completed, so both parties can respectfully move on with their lives, and possibly come across someone else, and start building a relationship with them. So again, sound off in the comment section below what y'all thought about the movie. Do you still stand by Tyler Perry, tomato, tomato, tomato? Or did this breakdown bring you another perspective on what the message was really trying to get put out regarding to this movie, besides the bad production, not enough writers? It's another Tyler Perry movie, and it's always addressing Black women and their abuse and stuff like that, yada yada yada, benefiting off the pain of Black people, stuff like that. So sound off in the comment section below, like, share, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.